Donald Trump has knocked back the start date for global tariffs above 10% to August 1, claiming the U.S. is close to reaching several trade deals. Markets around the world have been mixed on the announcement amid uncertainty over what's to come of Trump's signature trade policy. Let's get more on this with Jared Mondschein, Director of Research at the University of Sydney's U.S. Studies Centre. Jared, good to have you back on the program. Now, so the Trump administration has once again delayed at least the implementation of the tariffs. We know he loves tariffs, Jared, so from what we saw in his first term, but can you talk us through what his latest move, this delay, is really aimed at?
I think ultimately you're seeing a Trump administration buying for time. There's not a lot of certainty on what sort of tariff tools they have at their disposal, but there have been a number of court cases that push back on the unilateral action they have on tariffs, which in turn have resulted in some countries not being as keen to negotiate with this administration as they were just a few months ago. Ultimately, I think the big issue to remain cognizant of is, as much as folks focus on what trade advisor or economic advisor is the latest into the Oval Office and maybe the most impactful, we should not overlook the fact that tariffs are something that are unique to this administration and unique to this president as something that he will remain focused on for, I think, the duration of his time in office. This is a focus of his that has long predated his political career, going back to the 1980s. And I think it would be a mistake to think that somehow any delay of the implementation of new tariffs is somehow a change in tact of his tariff agenda.
Yes, now the ABC, we've been reporting on how owners of several, small, medium, even large enterprises and businesses in the U.S. are suffering from those higher costs. And that includes Republican supporters as well. So has there been any political impact on President Trump?
There has been, but I think if you ask any economist what sort of impact you'll see, they'll say that it's a delayed impact, right? So what you have is tariff a lot of times on the inputs for manufacturing, and those inputs on a lot of manufacturing that takes place in the United States are inputs into complex manufacturing with many different inputs, many complex parts, and so you may not see a change in when you go to the store of the price this month or next month, but maybe 6 months from now or even a year from now, those additional prices and essentially taxes will ultimately start to bite a lot more.
Yes, let's talk politics now, Jared. Now, we've seen Elon Musk announce his new America Party. There's long been talk of having a third major party in the U.S. for decades. Now, but one thing is different. He is one of the richest men in the world. So, might this third party finally happen? Does he have the resources, and is he serious about it?
He does seem to be serious about it, and he definitely has put his money behind political efforts before. In this last election campaign in 2024, he put over $250 million behind President Trump in his campaign. I think, though, as you said, third-party bids have gone on for some time in American politics, and they've yet to materialize in the modern era into anything substantive. I think more than anything else, they've been the ultimate spoilers. In 1992, Ross Perot basically won the White House for Bill Clinton. Even though he was more conservative, he ultimately took votes away from George H.W. Bush, allowing basically forcing George H.W. Bush to be a one-term president. And then in 2000, you had Ralph Nader, who basically delivered the White House to George W. Bush because he had some 97,000 votes in Florida, and Al Gore lost that state of Florida by just about 500. So less than 1% of Ralph Nader's vote total in Florida would have delivered the White House to Al Gore. So I don't think this will likely materialize into anything too substantive at a presidential level, but perhaps lower down the ballot, Senate and House races, there are definitely a lot more opportunities there.
Yeah, so whose side would a third party spoil more? Are we looking Republicans? As far as, let's look at the midterms, the Republicans more or the Democrats?
Right now, I think Elon Musk has really embraced in the past year or so the Republican and conservative agenda, so much so that he is more identified as a conservative, and ultimately, ironically, that would most likely hurt the conservatives in terms of hurting the GOP. That would likely take away votes from Republican candidates down ballot. It still is a bit of a guessing game. There are all sorts of different characters who have removed votes from both sides. Let's not forget Kanye West was on the ballot for running for president in a number of states, and he took votes from both sides. But I think on the whole, Elon Musk is likely to be more of a threat to Republicans than Democrats.
Yes, and his current mantra at the moment is to target challenges in the Republicans for those who voted for that big, beautiful bill. Is that the only way that he might be able to get those seats? Does he have to perhaps look at a much wider platform, from a wider policy platform than that?
Well, in choosing just a few seats amongst Republicans, he's actually, in my view, being pretty strategic, because you only have to look at how few competitive seats there are in Congress to realize that the greater competition is not necessarily Democrats versus Republicans, but actually amongst Republicans and amongst Democrats. So it sounds like he may be wanting to enter Republican primaries, and that, I think, is far scarier for Republicans than a third-party option.
Yes, and I just wanted to touch on one more thing, Jared. The U.S. has deported a group of 8 immigrants being held in Djibouti to South Sudan, and none of whom are even from South Sudan. They are migrants from Mexico, Laos, and Vietnam, and now being forced into a country that's rife with armed conflict. How is such a deportation even allowed to happen?
Well, the Supreme Court has essentially allowed this over the last few weeks and months. And what you're seeing more than anything else is the Trump administration trying to make as much as possible immigration be in the realm of foreign policy. If you look at the U.S. Constitution, there are a lot of limits on what the executive branch can do domestically. But when it comes to foreign policy, the U.S. president has a lot more leeway. And by deporting migrants to South Sudan, there's a lot less constitutional restrictions on the executive branch as there would be if they were to remain stateside.
Okay, Jared Mondschein, always appreciate your analysis. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.